Hey guys, what's up? Anthony Roberts back with ARcreates. I am super pumped to be back doing Fix My Graphic episodes. Had a really busy summer already, lots of youth camp stuff, had camp meeting, had kids camp, youth camp, just all kinds of stuff going on this summer. So I apologize for not getting more graphics out sooner, but we are starting back. Thank you guys for continuing to submit graphics. That has really helped me out, given me a lot of material to work with. And so, super excited. Can't wait to jump into this week's. It's going to be great. I hope you learned something out of it. Thank you for all the comments, all the response that I've gotten from previous episodes. And if you're not sure what Fix My Graphic is all about, if this is your first time watching, I suggest go back and at least watch the first episode where I kind of go in depth and explain what this series is all about. But anyway, let's get started.
Caught up in this traffic, my graphics looking tragic. I am so close on the precipice of magic, like lightning in a bottle. If only I could catch it. ARcreates, could you help me fix my graphic? Trying to wring some havoc, need that special magic. ARcreates, homie, go and fix my graphic. ARcreates, could you help me fix my graphic?
All right, so this week is a flyer for an upcoming revival service. It's interesting because there are 4 churches involved in this, and usually I always start these off talking about the information that's on the flyer, on the graphic, making sure we have enough information. This one, I will put it on the screen, has a lot of information, as you can see here, and I've made a lot of notes. So the first thing I want to talk about is when you're making graphics like this, specifically for social media, you don't have to put every single thing on the graphic. That's what the captions are for. That's what the post for underneath the graphic. Typically, you will hear people talk about stop the scroll or, catching people's attention, whatever the hot term is for all the social media gurus trying to tell you how to beat the algorithms for social media. But you really just want to catch people's attention with the graphic. Yes, you want to have the basic information and all that, but this one has a lot of stuff on it. And as you can see on the screen, it is quite jumbled. Now, the thing is when you're designing this, a lot of times you don't really notice. For instance, when I'm here and I'm designing, sitting right next to me, right here to my right, I work on a 24-inch monitor, okay? And I have a 13-inch laptop screen right next to it. So I'm usually working on stuff and it's like filling the screen like this, okay? So it's very easy for me to read everything. It's even worse when I'm at my house. In my office, I have it's either a 27-inch or a 32-inch monitor that I'm using. And so sometimes we forget we're designing something on a screen this big and it's going to be viewed on a screen like this big, okay? So just because we can read it very well on our computer screen doesn't mean the majority of people are going to see it. So that's something to always keep in mind when you're working on graphics specifically for social media and they have a lot of information, they have a lot of stuff on them. You want to think about, how does this actually look on a phone? Is this readable on a phone? Is it readable on a phone for elderly people with poor eyesight, or people like me? If I take my glasses off, I can't even see the camera that's literally almost, I can touch it in front of me. So those are all things to consider. So what I would suggest on this one, the first suggestion I have, and again, the way this works, if you're not new, at the very end, I will show you how I redesigned this graphic, but I'm going to go through some of the major points real quick. First, I would try to condense this information. How much of this is absolutely necessary and how much of it can be combined? For instance, down at the bottom, they have 4 host churches, or 4 churches that are involved in this. And I'm assuming that each one of them is going to do something or run the service or however the event is on a specific night. So there's a Friday, a Saturday, Sunday AM, and a Sunday PM. Well, automatically you could combine the 2 Sunday ones and just separate it by the time. So that's one thing you could do. You could probably condense the address down to one line. This 4 churches coming together for one, this tagline could probably be resized, put underneath the revival thing. So, you know, when you've got a lot of information and you find that it's filling the entire graphic and we're trying to compress all this into there, that's probably an indication, okay, we need to move some stuff around. We need to combine some things. We need to try to do some stuff to to let the text breathe, let the graphic breathe, so to speak. You'll hear the term white space. You want to leave space around everything where it's easy to read. So that's just at a glance looking at this. It's not that any of the information is incorrect. I'm not sure, because I'm not running this event, which information is most important, what could be left off, what couldn't. But first suggestion, let's start combining some stuff and getting this down. Next, talking about screen sizes and stuff, decorative fonts like this one. This one's got some real decorative fonts. There's a lot of curves in the text. When you, especially script type stuff, script type text, fonts, when you compress that down to small sizes, it gets really, really hard to read. So I would suggest, first off, maybe let's choose a cleaner font, especially for the smaller stuff. The other thing is, like I already mentioned, that there's the tagline at the top should probably go below the title of the service, and there's a lot of spacing. So it looks like 4 churches coming together for one is inside the same text box. So if you make those 2 separate text boxes, you can bring those closer, or if you're in Photoshop or something, there's actually an adjustment for line spacing, but I would bring those closer together where they're kind of on top of each other. Okay, that's going to give us more room over the total graphic. Next is this Reverend Gordon Poe. I assume he's like the main speaker for this, or the MC or something. He's playing a major role in this, so it's obviously important that we have his name on there. But is it important that we put Friendswood, Texas underneath that? Again, I don't know, but I'm just saying that may be one thing we could leave off. Is it really important that we know which city he's from? Just leave it at Reverend Gordon Poe, maybe take that line out. That gives us more space. Now we can condense things even further. Down at the bottom, like I said, you could already make clearer. You could probably put hosted by or involved by, and then list these churches. So not each one of them, so we don't have 4 across the bottom. Let's try to condense that information. I already talked about the address. I would probably move that location down to the bottom, or if I didn't move it to the bottom, I would put and make sure, instead of this long line of all services will be held at, maybe just put location and then that church, or put host church in that, or all services. We don't put all services will be held at. That's a whole long line. You could probably put location, name of the church, address underneath it. Now we've condensed that down even further. The other thing that I noticed on this is there is a lot going on design-wise. We've got revival and some matchsticks here. There's a dove down here. There's some praying hands down here. When I understand that, a lot of times we want to use symbols, we want to use icons to represent things, and that's all fine, except when we've already got so much stuff on here. So that's just further condensing everything down, jumbling everything up. I would start, maybe pick one of these things, or pick a background, or pick something. We don't really need all of these icons or all of these things on here. That's really taken away from how clear and how easy it is to read. Again, I printed this off on it's like 4x6 size, so it's easy for me to read. But again, looking at it on my phone, and it's a whole lot different, a whole lot harder to read. So those are kind of the things that I see right off the bat. Now, like I said, the good things about this is there's plenty of information, okay? There's the times, there's the dates, there's the address, there's the guest speaker, there's all of this stuff. So very good job on that. It's more of just the design thing, and that's what all Fix My Graphic is all about, is how do we make this better? So now I'm going to put mine up on the screen, and at the very end, I actually did a couple of different versions of this, and I will explain what the little small differences are. But if you look at mine, I totally just started with a blank canvas, okay? This is how I do this when there's a lot of information. I literally start white background, black text, okay? And I typed everything out, and then I kind of moved it around without any other design elements and kind of got it positioned right. And then from there, I built the rest of the flyer. Now, that's not always the case. That may not be your particular, workflow, but I suggest when you have a lot of information, when you have a lot of things to put in, that you start with, let's just make sure we get all the information on there first. We'll move on to the design, the looks of it next. All right, so on mine, instead of using the tagline, 4 churches coming together for one, I actually just put multi-church and then revival big underneath it. I'm looking at it here on my screen. And then right underneath that in smaller italics, I put coming together as one. So it gets the same idea across. It explains this thing better. But instead of taking up, a quarter or even, 2/3 or 1/3 of the graphic, now it's just one part at the top, and we left space above that to it's not buttoned up against, the edge of the graphic. Right underneath that, I put the dates, and I'll explain this better. You don't know the dates of this until you look down at the very bottom and you see each individual date listed. Okay, that's good information to break that out, but I also believe that, people are just glancing at this. Make the date real big. It's April 23rd through the 25th. Now, people can determine from looking at the detailed schedule whether they want to attend certain services, whether they can attend all of it or not. But just by glancing at it, at least I know, okay, it's the weekend of April 23rd through the 25th. And then I put with Reverend Gordon Poe underneath it. Again, like I said, I don't know if he was the guest speaker or what, but it makes sense. You just put April 23rd through 25th with Reverend Gordon Poe. Now we have the title. We've condensed the title, the tagline, the date, and the speaker all into one area that was occupied only by the title to begin with. So condensing that information down. Next, I put hosted by, and then Hardened New Life Apostolic Church, and then their address, okay? So condense that down even further because it's kind of confusing the more I got to reading this and went and looked back, is that it says hosted by on all of the ones down there. Okay, so maybe they are technically like hosting the service, but to me, for directions and continuity and people finding the location, hosted by, make sure that's big, that's right in the middle of the graphic. Hey, this is the church it's at. I know these other churches down below are involved in, but we've got this because you can explain the difference between hosted by, involved in, whatever in the caption, okay? Maybe maybe there's just a worship team from each church is taking over the worship section for each day, okay? You can specify that down in the post, down in the caption. That doesn't necessarily have to be explained in the graphic. That's not like a make or break deal of somebody attending the event. Maybe it is, I don't know. Maybe they're like, well, if this person's doing it, I'm not coming. I don't know. Not getting into church drama or anything like that. And then below that, I put service schedule. And then I listed, instead of listing this, they've got 4 lines for each church. I condensed it to 2 lines for each church. I put the date, Friday, April 23rd, Star City UPC at 7 p.m. Below that, went to Saturday, same thing. Here on Sunday, this is what I was talking about earlier, you can condense this. So I put Sunday, April 25th, Hardened New Life Apostolic at 10 a.m., Crossroad UPC at 6 p.m. So that makes it different right there. And now if you look at this as a whole, I've condensed all, instead of it going, edge to edge with the text, now it's about right here in the middle, and we've got these gaps on top, we've got gaps on the side. It's a lot easier to read. I just picked a generic city background for this. If this was me designing it, I would probably pick maybe a picture of the host church or a picture of the city it's in, something to give it a little more relevant, a little more personal touch to the location. But doing this kind of without really knowing anything about that area, I'm not from there. I just picked a generic city background to kind of show you what you can do. I cut the sky out of it and put a gradient over all of it. And then I think I used multiply on the city layer to kind of get a little bit of a bleed through with that, but you don't really have a sky or anything, so that's helpful there. You can see these little bitty lines. I put this little, I forget what it was called, some kind of shape thing. It was a texture pack I bought from somewhere just to kind of give it some texture there. And then you can see some little ripples that look like paper. I believe that was a poster texture pack I picked up from New Supply, and just overlaid some things like that to kind of give it a clean background. Now, to show you what I was talking about, a couple of different versions, pull it up here. If you want to do something a little different, I put these little highlighted boxes. I'm gonna throw these up on the screen, and one of them I highlighted just the date. That kind of breaks up the monotony of that gradient being the full length. The other one I said, you know, what does it look like if I put everything in its own little box? I didn't really like that one as much, but that's some way you could get a little bit different look. And then I put one, what would it look like if I just highlighted the revival part at the top? So again, we're kind of getting into personal preference, personal taste. Don't think that's really important. But overall, like I said, the main thing is just making it easy to read, making it easy to find the information quickly, not feeling like you have to put every single thing on the flyer, because that's what captions are for. And I assume if you're doing this as an event, you're probably making multiple posts leading up to the event, so you can explain things further in each post. That's kind of getting into marketing and social media management. Not really my forte, but just some suggestions there. So overall, I'm very pleased with how this one turned out. Hopefully you learned something out of it. Don't forget, there will be a link below in the description if you want me to dissect your graphic. If you want me to fix it, submit it below. I will try to get it on the show. I think I've got at least 1 to 2 more already kind of in progress. But show me what you got. I would love to, like I said, I will do this series as long as you guys keep submitting graphics. I'm actually thinking about reaching out to some designers, some friends I know, and kind of getting a different perspective on this, just to see what happens. You know, like I said, a lot of this, I'm giving you my personal opinions on it. Some of it is kind of the right thing to do. Some of it's just my opinion. But overall, glad you guys are tuning in. Glad this is getting a lot of response. Check the links below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get notified as soon as these come out. And I'm also putting a link in the description to sign up for my email newsletter. My email newsletter, I send out first announcements when I release a new font or a texture pack. Sometimes that includes discount codes or even free codes for downloads. I am also going to be trying to start out at least once a week or every 2 weeks. I'll be doing email with just design tips, just quick things, mostly centered around church design and designing for churches and things like that. A lot of social media help. So if you're interested in that, sign up for the email newsletter. I promise I will not spam you with a whole bunch of needless stuff. I really want to kind of build a community around this. And that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you get something out of this, if you create something out of this, tag me on social media at ARcreates. I love seeing what you guys make out of these videos. Talk to you later.